Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
You all can hear me, okay?
Yes, Prabhu. Very clear.
So please allow me to share screen. Let me just.
Sure, Prabhu. Prabhuji, you are a co-host now.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Om Agyanati Manandasya Gyananjana Salakya Chaksu Vitamena Tasme Sri Guru Name. Sri Chat Stapitamena Bhutle Swarupankadame Antatanti Samso Tantikam. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity. I thought we all know about this pandemic going through the whole society, whole world. So I thought I connect that with spiritual practices. So the topic of my talk today is pandemic-free world through spiritual practices. So what are pandemic about? Living entertainment, we all are pandemic, we all worry about many things, whether we have a job due to the complexity of the world and the living entity. We are constantly bombarded by so many things around us. Negative thoughts related to insecurity, negative thoughts, our feeling of competitiveness and insufficiency. So what is pandemic? If we talk about pandemic on material ground, the pandemic is an epidemic, which is disease that spread over multiple countries and continents. And perhaps, so this is limited in the sense that not necessarily a pandemic is spread all over the world. Examples are Russian flu pandemic of 1889, more than 1 million people died. Polio epidemic 1916 hit India, but we eventually overcome that. Spanish flu, Asian flu, swine flu, H1N1, and then many other. Ebola came, Zika, and now Corona virus flu. So all these are pandemic. But the thing is about they come and go. Actually, they don't stay. Spanish flu was the longest one, 2 years, and then now we have Corona. It came as COVID, Corona something, then Delta virus came, and now people don't even talk about Delta. They talk about Omicron, and then another one will come, and then we'll all forget. Maybe by Krishna's mercy, it will be gone in few months, and then we'll all forget about. Do we remember H1N1 swine flu? We don't remember. Ebola, do we remember? We don't remember. But most spreads were due to human activities. For example, meat eating, too much of social life. All these things, they cause pandemic. They cause the spread of these are on scientific basis, spread of this pandemic, these viruses. And this is coronavirus picture all over there. You see all these red dotted based on intensity and number of cases. It's all over, spread all over the world. So based on 2020 July, and now it is even more prevalent, and this keeps changing. So what pandemic, as I stated, they come and go when we talk about disease and this virus. But how about the pandemic, which is widespread in the society? Increasing level of complexity. How about the pandemic within us? Which is not easily curable. And this pandemic, the pandemic I am talking about, is not limited to a continent, a country, or a region. It is spread all over the entire world, on entire earth. So we have our daily life never ending because of our misconception about our existence in this world. We undergo so much of anxiety, stress, complexity. this internal pandemic, the pandemic which is not biological, the viruses we talk about, biological, this pandemic is rather material in nature: fear, insecurity, stress, anxiety. For example, fear implies too high temperatures of the body. Diarrhea means imbalance in our metabolism. How about imbalance of our mind? Lifestyle. How about ecological imbalances? We have created so much of ecological imbalances. If we have some problem in our body, we can go to doctor. We are on a prescribed path of medicine. We take and we get cured. But how about all these imbalances which have sustained the whole society for millenniums, for thousands of years? And we don't even think about these pandemics, which are prevalent, which will be prevalent unless the whole human society does something. As a consequence, what happens is we suffer. We suffer in a way that whole society suffer. Jealousy in the form of competitiveness, hypocrisy, stress in the form of over endeavoring about something, and then many more prevalent things in the society. And the results are we oftentimes do face these problems about divorce rate in the US, 40 to 50% of married people in the United States. And then the reasons you will study, the reasons for divorce are just very trivial. Oh, well, we can't get along. Our opinions don't match. Well, the opinions don't match because the opinions are not God conscious, and that's why the opinions don't match. Unless we are Krishna conscious, our opinion never going to match. There's no way our opinion is going to match. So the results are indifference, causing resulting frustration, anxiety, child brain, this the whole social media. The reason, one of the reason we go after social media is because we are all looking for love, and we all looking for appreciation. We all looking for being appreciated, and how somebody else can appreciate it, how can we appreciate other. But and that appreciation that we love, the love we look at the social platform, Facebook or LinkedIn, we don't get it, we get frustrated. And then all these cause loss in intimacy also. And then some of the alarming figures I show, this annual death rate because of alcohol. You see depression rates, in many states. For example, in Utah, Wyoming, it is stated that a lot of people, a lot of youth are depressed because they don't have a vision, they don't have a direction. And then suicide rates in the US. So these are all alarming figures. And this is pandemic. This is pandemic. This is prevalent in the society. It's not like they will come and they go. They will persist in the society. They are there, and they will remain unless the end of the society, unless we do something. So what can we do about this similar situation exists in advanced nation? Unfortunately, India is not too far also, because of the mistake we have done, or we are doing, running after this Western civilization, Western world. The habits and everything have changed over time, and then the rates of suicide, divorce, and whatnot, they're increasing in India. So in summary, what happens is, so what are our pandemics? Adi Devika, Kalesha, is stated, Adi Bhautika, and Adi Adhyatmika. So suffering caused by demigod, these are something which we can do. We don't have control over. Suddenly you have heavy rains, and then we can't do. Of course, some of the regions are contributed by human, for example, climate change. But mostly if there is earthquake, for example, we don't have any control over earthquake. And then Adi Bhautika, suffering caused by insects or enemies. Well, there's some control, but why do we need to create enemy? Because again, jealousy, competitiveness, overpowering. That's why this enmity in the society exists, and then we have problem. And these Adi Bhautika, these water scarcity, encroachment, food scarcity, swine flu. All these are the results of these different kaleshas. And then, of course, adhyatmika kalesha, suffering on body and mind. And these are the stress, anxiety, fearfulness. There's something we can do something we don't want to do, actually, people. And the only reason is we are suffering because we don't have a common cause, we don't have a common platform. So you'll see most of these things are as caused by human um, nature, human. So what is the result of all these kaleshas, all these pandemics? They cause a big dissatisfaction among us. We become dissatisfied. We oftentimes we say, oh, we have so many impurities. We have envy, competitiveness, and lust, anger, greed, illusion. But if you look at this, all these different kaleshas, the root cause is our dissatisfaction, and we are dissatisfied most of the time, and then we tend to be envious, we tend to be competitive, and this is what the challenge is. So in society, what we do is there are dissatisfaction. This satisfaction could be positive and negative. Dissatisfaction. Example I can give is dissatisfaction of Sila Vyasadeva and then Dhruv Maharaj. We know the story. Sila Vyasadeva, he uh, wrote all the Vedas, Puranas, everything, and then still he was agitated and he was highly dissatisfied. And then Narada Muni, his spiritual guru, came and he told him, actually, he gave him hard time. And he said, well, Vyasadeva, you did actually bad to the humanity by creating all these Vedas, because you told them how to get money, how to be happy through material advancement. So you're missing something. And then Srila Vedvyas realizes that, oh, he hasn't written about the glories of the Lord. So that's where the beautiful compilation of Bhagavatam came for all of us. So that positive dissatisfaction was something, looking for something fulfillment. Why I feel incomplete, why I'm agitated, why I have not accomplished something in terms of my own realization. So that is positive. And likewise, Dhruv Maharaj was given hard time, in fact, humiliated by his stepmother. All he wanted was to sit on his father's lap. And then a similar thing, he went to the forest to ask, pray to the Lord and do tapasya. And his motivation was to have a higher kingdom. But Narada Muni, again, as his spiritual guru, came and advised him to do the tapasya. And then in 6 months, and Lord came in front of him, because he was, and then that immediately he accomplished that spiritual satisfaction. But on the other hand, the dissatisfaction could be negative also. I mean, Duryodhan, because of dissatisfaction, he was always dissatisfied with other. He was dissatisfied by himself. He did not believe himself, and that caused him to generate a lot of envy, competitiveness, and lust and whatnot. And the result was Mahabharata. Everything was destroyed in Mahabharata. Only few people were saved. Not only everything, but all kingdoms, everything was gone just because of somebody's dissatisfaction, negative dissatisfaction. And likewise, Mantra, the maid servant of Kaikeyi, one of the queens of King Dasarath, she loved Kaikeyi as mother of Lord Ram. She loved him like anything, like his own son. But because of the contamination from dissatisfaction of Mantra, which led to envy and jealousy, and her mind was polluted, and then it happens. Lord was vanished to the forest for 14 years, and of course we all can say, well, this is all Lord's plan. But on because he was embodiment, he was exhibiting the example of a good person, good human being. We can take lessons. So from all these four examples, dissatisfaction can lead to destruction, and we don't realize in our life that when we are dissatisfied, we develop greed, we are agitated, and that leads to destruction in many ways. Doesn't have to be destruction as bad as Mahabharata, but destruction in the sense of in our own peace of mind, that is destruction in the sense of our own spiritual practices. So another message from these examples are, we need a guru, we need spiritual guru to guide us. Both in case of Srila Vedavyas and Dhruv, they were agitated, they were not satisfied, but then they took shelter of Guru. Then Guru, spiritual Guru, Narada Muni, guided both of them to vanish their dissatisfaction. And then beautiful compilation of Srimad Bhagavatam, and then a beautiful example of Dhruva Maharaj came to us. We still relish these stories, we still read this wonderful pastime. So this satisfaction is everlasting. In modern society, results are fearfulness, worrying, and envy. So what is worrying is integrated in our life right from childhood, when child is born, and then especially I've seen, for example, I mean, here is becoming same practice from very small age. We just trying to that induce, that force, that thought that okay, you have to be this, you have to become this, you have to, rather than saying, hey, you become devotee, you just focus on. And I'm not saying that when the small child, we always direct this path of becoming devotee. And we have several examples I can tell you. I mean, two wonderful examples are those who know His Grace Radhikarma Prabhu and his younger brother Gopal Hari Prabhu, and many other similar devotee, home educated. What they read is from childhood, they read Srimad Bhagavatam. And guess what? In the age of 13, Gopal Hari Prabhu went to Boise State University and he finished bachelor's in electrical engineering. So this is what. But to do electrical engineering in general path, what we have to go through, what kids have to go through, do this, do that, read this, do this stuff. So many things they are forced to go through, and that makes life really worrying, rowing. They're always worrying. So the structure of the society is such that we make our kids, we make our children worrying all the time. But if we keep Krishna at the center, if we make our kids read Srimad Bhagavatam from childhood, things will settle down itself. They don't have to worry. And then we grow up, then growing up, worrying about job, then growing up worrying about kids, then grown up worrying about old age. So all the time we are worrying, and worrying. So this is integrated in our life. So the next one is fearfulness. We're always worrying and fearfulness. There's subtle difference. They're inseparable. We are worrying because we are a little bit fearful, or a lot more fearful about things. We are fearful about insecurity, excess anxiety. We are fearful about what comes, and that fearful makes our brain just go numb. We lose the power, the intelligence. We lose the intelligence, the power of beautiful thinking. Brain chemistry and genetics may predispose a person to excessive fearfulness, and it can be fueled by societal circumstances such as the perception of a terrorist threat. So we are always fearful. What to do? And the thing is, excessive fear is bad, but we should have, again, there is positive fear and negative fear. For example, you're standing on the top of a building, and then you look down, 10 storied. You don't want to jump because you are fearful, and that fear is good. That fear is good. We want that because that fear saves you from doing something bad. So insecurity, excessive worrying, anxiety are some of the common signs of human fearfulness. But excessive fear is bad, and that comes from insecurity. Fearfulness, having some fearfulness, is okay. For example, after the first day of Mahabharata war, Yudhishthir was fearful. And why? Because Bhishma Pitama, he just create havoc in the whole army, killed so many people on the first day of Mahabharata. So Yudhishthira was fearful because he was fearful about his kinsmen, about his army, because they are unnecessarily killed. So that's why he was fearful. That fear is good for the well-being of the society. But on the other hand, Duryodhana was fearful because he was always fearful anyway from the beginning that, okay, I will lose war. He was forcing Bhishma Pitama to go and do something. At the beginning of every day, he would go to Bhisam Pitama and just force him and taunt him and torture him actually with his words, because he was always fearful of losing the war. He was not worrying about people. He was not worrying about Bhisam Pitama. All he was worrying about is just winning. I must win. So he was fearful. So these are integrated, fear versus fearfulness. Envy, the result of negative dissatisfaction. So that's what the envy is. Bhakti Vinod Thakur, in his Sajjan Toshni Forsam, writes that envy is the leader of all six internal enemies. And what those six internal enemies are: lust, anger, greed, illusion, and then pride. These all five are integrated in envy, which means if you have lust, anger, greed, you can overcome actually. And Acharyas state that in the human society, we tend to have, which is bad, but we can overcome and we can progress. But if we have envy, we cannot progress. There's no way. The first thing is we must give up envy to make any spiritual progress for us. So envy begins when one person recognizes another person had something that they would also like to have. So this necessarily leads to the question, why don't I have it? Again, this is competition. This brings to envy. Why have they succeeded in achieving what I could become? Envy can be destructive both mentally and emotionally, physically. Envy is also, it brings depression, the development of prejudice, and then personal unhappiness. Not surprisingly, these negative mental stress can impact physical health. Envy people can feel stress and overwhelmed. So envy is bad. But there, again, there is positive and negative. Most of the time, we have negative envy, and we must read. But in Nectar of Devotion, Sri Rup Goswami mentioned in chapter 3:30 that having envy to get love of Krishna is good. For example, gopis, when Krishna was with Radha Rani, gopis were envious to Radha Rani because you know why? Krishna is spending more time with Radha Rani. Likewise, gopis and gopas, and then they would play with Krishna, and then when the Krishna is with other gopas, the other group of gopas will be envious. So why Krishna is with them? So that's positive envy. Why? Because we are keeping Krishna at the center here. So having Krishna at the center, then our envy also becomes a positive thing. In chapter 3 of Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna clearly states in verse 332, and the verse is ye tvat ida abrishtyanto manusitanti me mam tamam sarva jnana vimustatan vidhi nastan akishchita, which means those who out of envy disregard these teachings and do not follow them regularly are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, be fooled and ruined in their endeavors for perfection. So clearly, Krishna states that when they disregard these teachings out of envy, then they are befooled, they don't achieve perfection at all. Krishna clearly states that. And then in the culmination of devotion, chapter 9 in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna clearly states that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, my dear Arjun, because you are never envious of me. The very first sentence Krishna says, you're never envious of me. I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. And in this word, in this verse, this verse, this word, anasuyave, means to the non-envious, anasuye, to the non-envious. So the only way to get Krishna consciousness is to give up our envy. And then example is, this is very nice example. There was a sage and he had disciple, and he observed that his disciples are little bit envious to each other. So he tried, he made an attempt to solve this problem. See, so he called all his disciples and then say, okay, give them a bag of potato. So okay, you carry this bag of potato for 1 week. So all disciples were carrying. So 1 day, 2 day, and he said, you have to carry this bag of potato with you all the time. You don't leave them behind. So all the disciples were carrying. First day gone, second, third, they all were frustrated. Why, but it was the order of spiritual master. They obeyed the order and they carry. And fourth day, the potato started rotting, but they started smelling and rotting, and they still had to carry. 7 day, they were all just totally done. Then they came to the spiritual master and they say, why are you asking us to carry this rotten potato? They're rotten actually. And the spiritual master made a point saying, well, you understand what I'm saying? I mean, you cannot carry rotten potato for a week. How can you carry envy within you, which is rotten, which is not only rotten, which is making your mind rotten, your body rotten. So that is the whole point. How can we carry? We have to give up. This is just rotten. It makes our body smell bad, and that smell actually comes in terms of the negative feeling, negative vibration. When you see envious person, actually, you can tell that the person is envious, and you want to stay away because that is reflected in our personality, that is reflected in our body language. So what is the cause of our envy? Oftentimes we ask, oh, why we are here. The cause of our envy, as the verse states, Bhagavad-Gita in cause of envy, our envy to the Lord. Bhoktaram Yagna Tapashyam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram Sradam Sarva Bhutanam Kyatva Mam Shantim Rachti. So a person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities. So we have to realize that we are not the doer, we are not the benefactor. It's all Lord. If we move with that direction, the supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor of well-wisher of all living entities, attains peaceful from the pangs of material miseries. So, and that is what, because we did not realize that, we became envious to the Lord. And when we became envious to the Lord, the result is we fallen and we came to this material world. The living entity in this conditioned world are my eternal fragments. That's what Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita 15.7. They're eternal fragments. And due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, mind, which includes the mind also. Mana Vismaha means part and parcel of the Lord. For want of sufficient knowledge, actually, the absolute science, we are now covered with illusion. And that illusion looks like this. So, this is exactly illusory. Just think about a tree on the bank of a river or a pond. So, what you see is the tree is full of fruits, nice ripe mangoes, for example, and then the reflection is also there. And this is the real tree is our real position in the spiritual world. But what we are living is in this material world is the reflection of that fruitful tree. So if you put your hand in the water and then try to grab a mango, you will not get anything. It will just, because there's no mango, you see the reflection, which is perverted reflection of all all spiritual. So this material world is the perverted reflection of the spiritual world. This is exactly the analogies. If you throw a stone in the pond of water, what is going to happen? It will create ripples, and the tree will disappear immediately. Again, it will come back. And if the pond is dirty, you don't even see the ripples actually in the water. So real world is blissful and then perverted reflection is what is full of envy. So, purport by Srila Prabhupada, generally we find someone more qualified than ourselves, we become envious of him. And when we find someone less qualified, we deride of him. And when we find someone equal, we become very proud of our activities. But Nectar of Devotion and Bhagavad-Gita and Srila Prabhupada states the other way around. And this other way around is stated in terms of neophyte devotee, and then Madhyamadikari, and then Uttamadikari, the topmost. So when we see neophyte, we should show affection, we should show our love, rather than deriding him. And when we find somebody equally qualified, Madhyamadikari, what they do when of equal person, we become friends. And then if we find Uttamadikari, that means if somebody is more qualified than us, rather than become envious, what we do is we seek blessings, we try to associate, we try to consult, and we try to learn from Uttamadikari, topmost devotees. So how to overcome dissatisfaction? Acknowledge negative emotions and reflect on positive emotions. Satisfaction is a product of reflection, not circumstances. So I could be satisfied in $10, but what we do is, $10 came. Wow, why don't I have $100? Let's go for 100. And then we are never satisfied. So what we reflect in positive emotion, that is our satisfaction. Practice giving compliments and expressing gratitude. When was it last time you said thank you? Rather than when we see somebody accomplished or more qualified or on material ground, rather than expressing thank you, what we become envious. So these are some of the rules we can adopt. Consider how a dissatisfied situation is an opportunity for meaningful contribution. So how can we contribute? What can we learn from this dissatisfaction? And all these seems great, right? All these 3 points. Oh, well, these are great, but how do we accomplish all these 3 points? Is it easy to accomplish these 3 points? How can we become? Because this is not on of switch. Today, I'm suffering, I'm envious, I'm worrying about life, I'm fearful, and then tomorrow suddenly I acknowledge negative emotion. It's not possible. It's not possible. So there is a practice, and then it's not so easy. So it's how do we do what you control? So as Krishna, as Arjuna says in chapter 6, Krishna is telling, started telling about bhakti yoga. At the end of first to sixth chapter are about karma yoga. Then towards the end of sixth chapter, Krishna introduces bhakti, and then 7th to 12th are bhakti yoga, devotional service to the Lord. Arjuna says, Chanchal hi man Krishna paramathi balvardhanam tashyaham nigraham mane vairi karam. Arjuna says, the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong. Oh Krishna, and to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind. So what Arjuna is telling, and he's telling to whom? He's telling to the Lord himself. Krishna is standing in front of him, and yet Arjuna is unable to control his mind. He's accepting that. He said, I can control the direction of wind. I can control running horses. I can control the rising tides, but I cannot control my mind. And this is, can you believe what is our situation in this material world? When Krishna is saying that, where do we stand? We don't stand anywhere, actually. And we claim to stand, we say we claim to control. We don't have any control over anything, even a small thing. I mean, just think about Lord's creation. The moment we start expressing our appreciation, Lord's creation on small thing. The last day we went to a park here, actually, and then in the park we just noticing these ducks. The ducks were swimming in water. Some ducks just came out, and their leg is like this. They have, but everything is connected. So it's very small thing. Why everything is connected? Because Lord has provided them a way to create greater buoyant force when they swim in the water. I mean, this is very small details. If you look outside and sit on your backyard on the porch, and then if you see small, small things, even from ant to elephant, you will realize that how much Krishna has cared about us. He has given us so much that we don't of divide of anything. He has taken care of very small things from ant to elephant, not in terms of just food, but even in terms of amenities, the facilities, the tools we have given. So, is it easy to control dissatisfaction? No, it's not easy. But there is a path Srila Prabhupada provided. And what is that path? The path is, how to overcome these pandemics. And then this, and I'm not saying this is the path, but this is just something I put together. That okay, first thing we realize that we have to be God conscious and be spiritual. And spiritually doesn't mean that you give up everything and you just reside in temple. You go no. Spiritually for Grihastha, spirituality realizing that Krishna exists, God exists, the creation is by Him. Whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm getting is because of Him. That realization only is the first step into the stair of going forward and then making progress and stay in the mode of goodness. So once you become Krishna conscious, when you become God conscious, then you stay in mode of goodness. There are three modes: mode of passion, mode of ignorance, and mode of goodness. So there is a fine line between mode of passion and mode of goodness. And oftentimes in our life, what we see is we tend to dwindle between mode of passion and mode of goodness. And sometimes it's okay, but we don't want to. And there is a degree, right? When you read, especially when you go to California, you will see the degree of fire hazard, right? It's like orange, yellow to red. Red means more prone to fire, forest fire. So likewise, passion is yellow. You want to stay in yellow region, and of course, the ultimate goal should be get into the mode of goodness. Getting from that yellow region into mode of goodness is very easy, rather than from that red region to goodness. So we want to practice how can we move from that red to orange to yellow and then eventually to goodness, mode of goodness, and then understand difference between the body and soul. We are not the body, we're the soul. Classical, there are many lectures, the whole Bhagavad-Gita based on this body and soul. So Krishna introduces in chapter 2, again in chapter 7, 8, and again in 18. So we have to understand, and then once we understand that, then we will know how to control our mind, because our eventual goal is what? How we can control our mind, how we are not controlled by our mind. As Krishna says, those who control their mind are the topmost people. They are the one can make progress and achieves me. So how to make progress? So first step is step on consciousness and spiritualization and the science of self-realization. I make a quote here by a famous scientist, which is Nobel laureate in chemistry, Sant Goryogi. In my search for the secret of life, I ended up with atoms and electrons, which have no life at all. Somehow along the lines, life has run out through my fingers. So in my old age, I am now retracing my steps. My question is, do we want to wait till that far? Old age. It's good that Nobel laureate realized that, but we don't want to wait that far. In our old age, it will be too late. No, there is never late, of course, but Srila Prabhupada has given us wonderful path, very easy path. You don't have to go to jungle or forest and do tapasya. It's very easy path. All we have to do is chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And when you chant with heart, whenever you chant with heart, completely 100%. Give it to Krishna for that spur of moment and see what miracles happen in your life. That is self-realization. Another verse, another quote from another famous scientist, Francis Collins. Are you simply uncomfortable accepting the idea that tools of science are insufficient for answering any important question? What is science? Based on experiment and axioms, hypothesis. We say 1 + 1, 2. Can you prove it? No, because we accept that truth. Somebody told us 1 + 1 is 2, so it is 2, right? So that is what the science is. This is particularly a problem for scientists who have committed their life to the experimental assessment of reality. From that perspective, admitting the inability of science to answer all questions can be a blow to our intellectual pride. But that blow needs to be recognized, internalized, and learned from. So what he's saying is just science is not sufficient. There is beyond science, and that science is science of self-realization. And once we recognize the science of self-realization, then we make uh, spiritual progress. So top five, there are 64 different things told, small, and many of things as devotee you will realize that from nectar of devotion that we already do. But these five are topmost. Worshipping the deity, which you all are in the temple today, or worshipping the deity, residing in Dham, Lord's spiritual place. We cannot go, but as Srila Prabhupada says, wherever the devotees are, that is Dham. So which means associating with devotees, having association of senior devotees, such as Satyasar Prabhu, Mataji is there, associate with them, listen to them, so that becomes dham. Hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, read Srimad Bhagavatam, but of course hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from devotees, and then chanting the holy names, and then association with the devotees. These are some of the things, very simple things can do to make progress in spiritual path. Qualification and hearing of spiritual knowledge. Krishna tells Arjuna in Bhagavad-Gita that your qualification for receiving and understanding this great knowledge is that you are not envious of me. Again, Krishna in several times in Bhagavad-Gita, so as he used this word envious, it's emphasized so much. So our practice should be that, yes, we should give up our envy. The first thing is to give up our envy. Envy is like coated with, mirror coated with sand or dust. You cannot see clearly. Everything seems blurry. So as Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that fire covered with smoke and mirror covered with dust, and then embryo in the mother's womb, right? There's layer. So the different layers, different things. That is our situation in this material world. We are confused, we are helpless, like embryo, cannot move, and then everything is so connected. So realizing that the second thing is we are the soul, not the body. That's another thing that we need to realize. We are the soul, we are not the body, and that realization comes that it is like a deer. Our situation, and this is much like the tree. It's illusion. It's much like the tree we discussed earlier. The deer sees a reflection and on water and runs for it. However, there is no water. And then in doing so, deer runs, and eventually the deer is tired and then falls down, tired, and then exhausted, and then dies. And that is our condition in this material world. Daksha, for one of the last and important question, Daksha asked Yudhishthira Maharaj when Pandavas, his brothers, they went to get water from a pond, and then all four of them, they are unconscious. Then finally Yudhishthira Maharaj goes, and then he answers all the 10 questions. The last one is, what is the biggest surprise in this world? And then Yudhishthira Maharaj answers that the biggest surprise is that we see people dying in front of us. We see people carrying the dead body, and yet we don't realize that one day the same thing going to happen with us also. So this is the biggest surprise. So we have to realize, and that's the realizing that, okay, we are not the body, we are the soul, and that's what the self-realization is. So developing true love for the Lord. So when we develop pure love for Krishna, is blissful. And then you see this beautiful picture, Sudama, Krishna, Gopis, their love was pure love. And even Yashoda Mata Nanda Maharaj, can you imagine Krishna carrying slippers of Nanda Maharaj every morning on his head? And then so Lord is bound by our pure love. Why? Because Nanda Maharaj and and Yasoda Mata, his devotee, as mother and father, and then he was serving them. So Krishna is ready to serve his devotees always, always. But what he's looking for is he's looking for that pure love. Where is that pure love? And the definition of pure love is given in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 2. Seivam pumsam param dharmo yator bhakti yadhokshaje ahetuki aprahitita yatatma suprasadite. So the supreme occupation. So supreme occupation is what of all humanity, just not for us, is all humanity, by which man can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendental Lord. Such devotional service, prema, must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self soul. This is true love, and this is our supreme occupation. So Krishna is telling clearly that Srimad Bhagavatam, sorry, in Srila Vyasdev, that our love to Lord should be what? Aprahitita ahetuki. It should be unmotivated and uninterrupted. From the childhood, what we have learned, and this is okay. I mean, at least we did, but most of the time, our love in material world is not unconditional. It's always motivated. Okay, if I do this, I must get this, or maybe Lord will award me this. Let me do. And then, oftentimes, people in material world, they go to temple, they pray, they do a little bit, which is okay, but they do out of fear that if I don't do this, if I don't do this, something bad will happen to us. Krishna never does anything bad with his devotee. The root meaning of word dharma here is that one sustains one's existence. So dharma is not something which we define in material world, that okay, my dharma is to serve the human society, to serve the nation, to do this ism, that ism, secularism, and then what ism, right? So many. But what is dharma is the one which sustains the human society. That is dharma. And what sustains the human society? This is our pure devotional service to the Lord. That because that gives us a common platform to talk with each other. Then when we talk with each other on a common platform, there is no envy and there is no jealousy, there is no competitiveness. So story of Virtasura, and that's about pure devotional service. Now, Virtasura, the demon was cursed, Chitragupt in his previous life, and he was cursed by, I think, Mother Parvati. And then he became the demon in next, named Virtasura. So anyway, the only way to kill Virtasura was to make a weapon or tool out of of some yogi who's a devotional service and who has done tapasya for many. So the Dichi, eventually they go to the Dichi, and then the Dichi sacrifices his life such that from his bone could be killed. So eventually now there is a fight going on between Indra and Virtasura. So now Virtasura's hand is cut, both hands are cut, and still he's giving good fight to Indra. And Indra at one point of time, he just thrown in a way that his elephant ride is lying on the ground and Indra is helpless. So his last resort is now use that weapon made out of the bones, Dadichi, Maharishi Dadichi's bone. So which means Virtasura knows that he's going to be about to be killed. So what we do? We pray? If this some one of us, what we'll do is we'll say, "Oh Indra, please don't kill me. I'm changed person. I will obey whatever you say." But no, he was true devotee of the Lord, and he sings beautiful prayers to Lord Vishnu. Then he's just about to die, but what he's doing is he's praying to the Lord and he's singing beautiful prayers, Vratasura. And his prayer, in one of the prayers, he says that my love is not like baby birds. See what baby does? The mother bird, when goes outside, comes back in the evening. Do you saw baby birds? They can't even fly. They cannot go anywhere. All they spend their whole day is waiting for their mother, baby birds. They're just waiting. So you see the love, the intensity of love they have. But again, their love is conditional a little bit, right? Because they're waiting. Why? They need food also. And then calves tied, cows goes for grazing in the forest, and they come back, all come back in the evening, and then calves, they drink their milk. So their love for their mother, calves love for, so my love is not like that. That is also, so first level of love is baby word, second highest intensity is calves waiting, and then third is chaste wife whose husband is away from home always longs for him to return and satisfy her in all respect. So that kind of love, that is the highest quality of love, because for chaste wife there is no motivation. Her motivation is just to serve husband, to keep him happy. My love, Lord Krishna, is like that. So please call me. And that's after this prayer, uh, Indra kills Virtasura, and then of course Lord himself comes to take Virtasura back to uh, Godhead, to his kingdom. So this is what we do. So what there's a very nice in nectar of devotion, and of course Prahlad Maharaj tells this in his prayers. So Sarvanam Kirtanam Samaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam, this Navdha Bhakti Dashyam Sakhyam Atanivodhanam. So it's not like you jump from Saranam. You can, if you are Vedanta. We are not Sukdev Goswami. We are not liberated souls. So there is a path forward. We start with Saranam, and if you're doing Saranam, you progress. So how you judge? Sometimes people ask, how do we judge our progress? And it's simple thing, right? You can judge by yourself. Okay, do I have ruchi in now kirtanam, right? I'm doing saranam, do I have ruchi in kirtanam? And then of course smaranam. So these are different paths. And then in nectar of instruction stated that vacho vega mansa. So we have to be disciplined also. It's just not like you chant. Yeah, they go simultaneously. You chant, you do samarnam, you do kirtanam, but you have to be disciplined. So vacha vegam, mansa krodha vegam, jiva vegam, udaro pastha vegam, ethan vegam, yo vishaheta adhirha, savarnam apinam prithvyam sa shishyata. These are the qualities of a guru who can make disciple. But this is true for devotees. This is what we have to aspire for. This is what we have to go after, that a sole person who can tolerate the urge to speak. I mean, this is one of the things, right? People do debate nowadays in colleges. All they do is debate, right? What happens in debate? Arguing on a topic, on a worthless topic, people are arguing, which you have nothing to do with. The mind's demand, the action of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, genital is qualified to make. So we have to control these different things. And then we make endeavor. Over enduring is what cause anxiety, stress also. We don't have to over endure in 6 different departments, and those are eating more than necessary, over enduring for mundane things, taking unnecessarily mundane subject matters. Rather, we talk about Krishna, and then practicing spiritual rules and regulations for the sake of following them, associating with worldly mind people, being greedy for mundane achievements, and then favorable services from nectar of instruction, being enthusiastic. If we are not enthusiastic, we cannot progress, right? This is proven in every part, not only devotion service. If you're not enthusiastic in a particular sports, you cannot progress. So likewise, this is a practice. Devotional service is a practice, and we have to be enthusiastic. We have to endeavor with confidence, patient. It's not on-off switch. If you chant for 1 week and then you ask, oh, Satyasa Prabhu, what? I'm not progressing. I don't see any change. Well, how can you see change? Your heart and mind is contaminated. It's layer of dust, and cleaning process will take time. When you go to a doctor, it gives you medicine, and if the disease is severe, the more severe is the disease, the more long will be the course of medicine. So after taking medicine for 1 or 2 days, you don't see the changes. You have to take medicine for quite extended period of time, then you start seeing changes. So this devotional service, chanting is taking medicine, which Srila Prabhupada has provided us, and we will start seeing change if we keep taking this medicine. So in summary, the concept of love at material platform is elusive. True love can only be done with Krishna and vice versa. To be happy and to get true love, we need to make small adjustment in our lives. Just start associating with devotees and chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. We need to understand that our supreme occupation, dharma, is to love God, unconditional in unmotivated way, and by performing devotional service, we need to house the strong belief that God is a person and he reciprocates in love. And then once we do that, this will result in true happiness. And then and we follow God consciousness, and these various pandemics, we can kick them away by self-realization. And what we get is we will get true happiness. So thank you so much. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity. Let's end with this Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for nice class. Devotees, if you have any questions, comments, or reflections in the temple or in online. You can unmute and ask, or you can type in chat window also. Okay, if no other question, Prashant Prabhu, can you give the thank you note for?
Yeah, I have a question. It's
yeah,
rather a comment. I like the one item which is about not to be controlled by the mind, because mind is a part of body, and so we should not be controlled by the mind, but we should control the mind. That's the point. I like it very much. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Very nice comment. Thank you.
any other comments or questions?
Ras Vilas Prabhu, this is Satyasara Das from the temple.
Yes,
A
Prabhu.
beautiful class, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. We would like to invite you often. Even when you are in Salt Lake City, you can give presentations like this. It's really eye-opening, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I would like to request Prashant Prabhu to share his thank you note.
Hare Krishna, Ras Vilas Prabhuji. Thank you so much for giving this class. I like to take notes, but there were so many things that I was able to take away. I think you, especially how you started, how we are living in this world. There's a pandemic, but really that's not really that big in comparison to everybody's pandemic that's going on internally, and how the whole material world is going through this pandemic of material attachment, ignorance, and that's really the pandemic that Krishna consciousness addresses for all of us. Thank you, Prabhuji. You very beautifully connected to all of our shastras. How we have the Adi Devika, Adi
Bhautika,
Adi Bhautika, Adi Atmika, and how it's caused by demigods and sex, but really it's what's coming from the body and mind, and how all of these things are leading to dissatisfaction and agitation, fearfulness, worry, and all of this is ultimately disturbing our contentment and our internal peace. And I really like the point, Puji, where you said even if we see these things, there's still a positive side to it and a negative side to it. How you can, with your perspective, you can still see it in a different way, especially like how Vyasadeva and Dhruv Maharaj because they had the guidance of Guru, they were able to see a situation and with that guidance still come out of it with progress. Whereas, if we don't have that guidance, we are going to fall down into envy and jealousy and whatnot. I think, you gave examples for worrying, for fearfulness, and for envy, and how, there's positives and negatives for both. So thank you, Prabhuji. That was very eye-opening for me. And finally, Prabhuji, I really like the point that you made of how satisfaction is a product of our reflection. So if we are looking at a situation and we are seeing something and, our conditioned mind is giving us these thoughts, then it's up to us to then say, no, how do we look at it from a positive way? And how do we look at it as something that, it's and like saying thank you, or how we can look at it as an opportunity to transform, and rather than giving into, envy or whatever it might be. And finally, Prabhuji, you gave so many different ways of how we can actually get out of it, and how our path of Krishna consciousness and Bhakti Yoga allows us, it gives us everything to get out of this cycle of that we're in, and this pandemic that we're in. And even though, we know the mind is difficult, that, there's so many different ways, like deity worship, reading, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, being in association, chanting the holy name, residing in temple, being at the temple, all of these things, and I think you gave those 3 steps, right, of being God consciousness, understanding we're not this body, we're spirit, soul, and then ultimately, through that process, develop pure love for Krishna. So thank you, Prabhuji. I took a lot of notes, and I will be reflecting on it. So thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much.
We hope you can give more classes like this.
Thank you for the opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Prabhuji. Hare
Ras
Krishna.
Vilas Prabhu. Thank you, Prashant Prabhu. Yeah. Next part of our program is, please pin the temple window. We are going to start the Aarti shortly. Hmm. Hare Krishna Prabhu, we can't hear.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Prabhu, we are not able to hear anything.
Okay, so I think it's muted. Okay.
Suppose आप एक श्लोक रीड कर
Prabhu, we are not able to hear anything, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Prabhu, it is completely silent,
Can you
Prabhu.
hear it now?
Yeah, completely silent, Prabhu.
What is that, Prabhu?
No, we are not able to hear any kirtan, Prabhu. It is silent.
Oh, okay. So not at all hearing, huh?
Oh,
But you were able to hear earlier Satsar Prabhu talking?
yes.
Okay, you were able to hear that.
Only kirtan is not able to. We are not able to hear.
Kirtan alone you are not able to hear.
Yes, Prabhu.
Meaning, okay. Loud is actually. Okay, let me see.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Goranita Nararaj, Sita Gonararaj, Sita Goranaraj, Sita Goranga. Jaya Nita Goranaraj, Nita Goranaraj, Nita Goranaraj, Nita Goranaraj. Jaya Radha Krishna, Radhe. Jaya Radha Krishna, Jaya Radha Krishna, Jaya Radhe. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jai Nita Gaur Nataraj ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Namaste Narasimhaya. Paladaladarayine. Hiranyakashipu Raksha. Srila Tankana Kalaye. Ito Nishima Parato Nishima. Yato Yato Yamitato Nishima. Bahini Shimha Hidaye
Shima. Narashim Amadim Sharanam Prapayade. Tavakara Kamalavare Inaka Abuta Shingam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam Kesapadita Narari Rupa Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare. Kesavadita Narari Rupa Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare. Jaya Jagadish, Jaya Jagadish, Jaya Jagadish Hare. Jaya Nishimare, Jaya Nishimare, Jaya Nishimare, Jaya Nishimare. Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya.